Welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. We thought about doing a live, but Callum's decided to take himself off to Fortaventura, and I'm delighted to welcome back Jonny Main onto the show. Jonny, we're recording this on Wednesday night, about 10 minutes after Aberdeen released a statement that I think we both didn't think would go the way it did, as it's been revealed that Jim Goodwin will be in position at Easter Road on Saturday. I guess, what's your initial reaction to that?
I'm stunned, actually, to be honest. Stunned, shocked, disbelief, really. I don't know what to say about the statement, but we'll come on to what it means for Goodwin, I'd imagine.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the statement, it's just, well, it's pretty brief.
I mean,
it's pretty clear that the end is nigh. It just won't be now.
It could be 5:45 on Saturday. But
why? Why is a defeat to Hibs? Why is a defeat against Hibs at Easter Road worse than getting beaten by a non-league team in the cup?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get why it's taken 48 hours for them to come up with a statement. I'll read it out for those that are maybe living under a rock by the time this episode comes out and have not seen what it says. Dave Cormack released a statement saying, "We all recognise that Monday's disastrous result in the Scottish Cup was totally unacceptable. It added insult to injury," a bit like this statement it feels, "after such a poor result against Hearts following what was a strong performance in the semi-final against Rangers at Hampden. The Football Monitoring Board, comprising of Stuart Milne, Willie Garner, Stephen Gunn and me, have now had a full and frank meeting with Jim. It wasn't an easy conversation, but necessary after the overall poor results since the World Cup. From our wider discussions over the last 2 days," so, I mean, I don't know what they were doing that it took them that long, "but we believe the senior players and the squad are behind the manager, contrary to popular belief going around WhatsApp this afternoon anyway. Combined with our discussions at today's meeting, Jim will be in the dugout on Saturday. However, to be clear, Jim has been left in no doubt that the board and the fans are seeking an immediate response from him and the players." I mean, to have radio silence for 2 days and that is what the club come up with is, I mean, Dave says it added insult to injury, Monday's result. That statement pours a whole heap of salt into the wounds. I can't believe the club thought that was a decent statement to issue.
No, I would agree. The statement itself, that took probably 2 days too long to come out. They showed utter contempt for the fans, especially the ones who paid to go and watch them on Monday. The anger is massive inside me now, just huge. I mean, the anger that it took them 2 days to come up with that statement, and the bit that, I mean, let's look at this from our wider discussions over the last 2 days. Do we believe that the senior players in the squad are behind the manager? At what point in the last 9 games, or however many it is, have they showed they're behind the manager? Say what they like, but the performance is a fucking disgrace. Quite frankly, they've showed with their actions that they're not behind the manager.
And if I mentioned when I was reading the statement, if rumours are to believe, one of the main rumours going around today was there was a fallout between Graham Shinney and Jim Goodwin, which could indicate a reason behind the fact that he never featured on Monday. As I said, it's just a rumour. I'm not aware of there being any truth in that discussion, but I would label, despite him being on loan, Graham Shinney as a senior player. Ross McCrory as well was also rumoured to have a fallout with Jim Goodwin as well. He's his vice-captain, for fuck's sake.
Our comms are a disgrace. The comms, the communicate, because there's been nothing from the club. I've seen and heard these rumours as well. I wouldn't comment on them, to be honest, because you hear loads of rumours. I heard that Ross McCrory fell out with them in the dressing room after Hearts, I think. And now I'm hearing this. I heard this one about Shinney today. Because Shinney didn't come on, it was such an obvious, glaring omission to not have Graham Shinney come on Monday. that people are going to put 2 and 2 together and come up with 10, right? Which is what's happening. People are just putting wild theories out there. I don't know. I don't know what's going on at that club. It just seems like we're a complete shambles and a complete laughingstock.
It does, and I just can't help but feel that statement further adds to it. The guys from This Is My Story pod messaged and said, does that statement hurt more than the defeat? And it kind of feels like much more talk about kicking a man when they're down. You know, I tweeted from the Red Tinted Glasses podcast page, talk about reading the room. Dave's just not done it at all. I mean, I personally, I'm not a fan of DNA and the investment that produces. And I'm sure there's maybe some of you out there that invest in that and invest other ways into the club that are maybe having a bit of question marks around what your money is going to. And I know certainly there will be a few folk raising the question, can we afford to get rid of Jim Goodwin, given the compensation that have been paid out to Stephen Glass, Derek McInnes, even the compensation to get Jim Goodwin to this club? Is it a case of we've almost got to bear it out? But again, there should have been better communication. You know, I saw Neil Drysdale even communicate something like, what happens if the club at least communicated on Monday or Tuesday that they were at least going to look into what had happened? The fact there has been radio silence until tonight when they've come out and said that he is now in position, it just, I think, has further fueled the anger amongst the support.
Yeah, hard to disagree with anything there, to be honest. It sets a dangerous precedent for me. What's the bottom of the barrel? What is, if that wasn't on Monday night, if that wasn't bad enough? And I think I've never seen this before, and I know chairman shouldn't react to us on podcasts than when they say they want the managers to go. But I've never seen such unanimity amongst people who you would ordinarily see defending the manager and saying he needs more time, even after Hearts, you know, Tannadice, Celtic at home. You can list it. It's not like this was a one-off, right? It's not like this was it was an aberration, just an off night, or one of those nights, as Lee Sharp might have said. It wasn't that. This was the latest in a series of catastrophes. Another stain, but this stain won't wash off. This will be talked about when we're long gone, right? Yeah. This is a result that we'll never be able to forget. And
yeah, so, well, I mean, I listened to the guys at ABZ. I listened to the 3-part podcast that the 3-part segment in terms of the episode, and I can't remember who it was that said, but they said the guys from the 95 squad against Stenhousemuir have been probably the only people celebrating, because that result from Monday night will now significantly trump what happened in Stenhousemuir. And you're absolutely right. This stain will not wash away. That will leave a permanent mark on the club, those players involved that night. And I mean, I was working from home, thankfully, on Tuesday, but even going in today, it was unbearable. And it will continue to be the case. I'm glad Jim asked to swap days, so I'm not in the office tomorrow, because I'll be having to deal with the questions of how has he survived? And I think that's what a lot of us are thinking, Jonny. And I mean, what does it mean now? Because Cormac's put that marker that we need to see a change immediately. So my understanding is anything less than 3 points, it means he doesn't survive past Sunday. But as you said, what difference does not beating Hibs make to losing to Darvel? Just get him gone now.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's the start. It's a slow countdown, you know, a slow death basically for Jim Goodwin now, as far as being Aberdeen manager is concerned. And it's not particularly great for him to have that hanging over him. it sort of bothers me that the Darvel result was maybe the first time they actually sat down and got together and went, hang on a minute, lads, we might have to think about the manager's future here. There's been several red flags this season that would have gotten me saying, if I was Cormac anyway, privately, maybe to my director of football, Stephen Gunn, saying, hey, Stevie, fire up that list there you've got of potential successors for Jim Goodwin, which I'm sure he has. I'm sure there is a list there. I am being sarcastic. I'll bet there isn't a fucking list, right? But there should be a list of potential names that could come in should we suffer probably the worst result in the history of Scottish football, like away to a non-league team in the Cup. What are the chances of that? Yeah. We might have to fire that list up. I mean, this shouldn't have been a surprise. They should have been preparing for this before Monday in the odd chance that it happened. And it did happen. This, to me, is quite concerning that it's taken them until Monday night to even begin discussing the manager's future. And the consequences are we're now basically the manager's on notice and the players are on notice. The pressure on them is going to be more. Maybe that's a good thing because it appears that they just think it's a bit of a holiday camp being at Aberdeen. Yeah. You know, a bit of a laugh, and they don't really realise I don't think they actually realise the magnitude of the job they have. Yeah. So maybe it's not a bad thing to put a bit of pressure on, but the pressure's been on before, and they've shat the bed before. We can't. Surely, another part of that statement that angers me, it might be petty and stupid. After a good performance in the semi-final against Rangers, we got beat.
Yeah, I knew that what you were going to say before you even said it.
We got beat. We're fucking Aberdeen. We're not fucking Ross County. No disrespect, Ross County, great club and all that, but the standards at Aberdeen should be winning trophies, not fucking performing well and getting beaten in the semi-final. Oh my god, the rage I have is off the chart.
Yeah, and I like how you're using Burns night as an excuse to get your drum in tonight as well. But it's
a local one too. It's a Fetter cairn. It's very nice, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going down very well to ease some of that
anger in as well. That's how bad I feel.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, Anthony Stewart, I think, was quoted as saying, you know, it's not a joke. We've got to take the situation seriously. I mean, summing up about kind of going back to the comment you make about it being a holiday camp, and it just smacks of kind of, I don't know what the right word is, the disregard to the fan base from players and board of directors alike. And yeah, almost you could argue you feel a bit sorry for Jim Goodwin in a sense going into this weekend, knowing that he's on a hiding to nothing because the fans don't want him there and the board have gone and backed him. And also now, if you were a potential signing target for Aberdeen, what must you be thinking between now and the January deadline coming? Because you've got a manager who's on a vote of confidence, or a lack of confidence if you're asking the fan base, but they're not going to come and sign for a manager that could potentially be away by the weekend or a few days after. Then again as well, if the result goes negatively on Saturday, you're then further reducing your time to get people in that January transfer window. It is just bewildering. It really is. And I'll come on to Goodwin in a second, but how do you think this statement reflects on Cormac himself, but also that board that have come to that decision?
They're completely out of touch with the fans. They're completely out of touch with reality, potentially. Yeah. It reflects really badly on the club as a whole that it took them that long to come up with that statement. And I get these are difficult things, and it's you have someone's employment in your hands, and it's not a nice thing to be talking about. Let's put that out there as well. But at the same time, the responsibility they have is to the club, not to Jim Goodwin necessarily in isolation, right? And I just think it just reflects a total lack of understanding of the gravity of the situation. I'm just lost for words, to be honest.
And I think that is the feeling amongst most of the support. You know, the longer they went on, there was that fear. And again, as maybe horrible as that sounds, fear was the word being used that he was going to keep his job. And now, looking ahead kind of to the weekend, Jonny, what does this do for Jim Goodwin? And I mean, both of us are not going to the game on Saturday, but what do you anticipate that away end to be like? Because, you know, I think once the whistle blows for the game to start, I think the fans should be getting behind the team in terms of getting the result. I understand that's easier for me to say and it's easier to be said rather than done. There will definitely be a lot of anger in that away end. Where do you think that anger would be placed? Do you think that will be directed at Cormac? Do you think it would be directed at Goodwin? What do you anticipate that atmosphere to be like on Saturday? Do you think it'll be as toxic as I think many assume it will be now? Because I'm sure we're going to be joined by Michael Monan a bit later, but it's not exactly going to be pretty from a Hibs point of view either.
No, I think it will be toxic, but I think it'll be toxic on both sides, which could be a first in Scottish football history. Which to be honest, well, I mean, toxic to your own team rather than toxic to each other. I think I actually did, because I had a feeling that he might be staying. I did have a look at flights on Saturday morning, coming in and coming back on Saturday night, but there's none available because I thought the banter would be almost worth coming over for the day. But then I thought, nah, don't be silly. It'll be toxic. I would expect that the fans will probably direct some of their anger towards Cormac now. And the board. I'd imagine the thing is the fans will get behind the team, but as soon as things start to go wrong, misplaced passes, you know, then the fans will be on the players.
That'll just really kick it off.
If we go, going back, not even that. I think just misplaced passes would start, you know, moaning and grumbling in the crowd. Going behind. Yeah, I think you might see people leaving even then, because we've shown that when we go behind, that's it, game over. You might as well pack up and leave.
And I think it's such a huge test for the players, and kind of will also be a test for what Cormac's just said about the senior players and showing that they're behind. You've spoken about it when you came on last week about the character and mentality or severe lack of currently in the playing squad. Well, let's see. Do they have the mentality? Do they have the characteristic to stand up and back the manager, given the fact that the board have now gone on to back him themselves? I personally can't see it happening, but I mean, stranger things have happened, I suppose.
Well, they every time they take the park, every time they take the field, they should be showing that they back the manager. And too often this season, they've showed that they just can't be bothered. Or what did we say before that? What did we say last week, or when we discussed the Darvel game? If we put in as much effort as they do, if we do our job, we'll win the game.
Yeah.
And the fact is, we didn't. We didn't put in the effort. We were outfought, outmuscled, and probably Goodwin was outthought as well. Not probably, definitely was outthought by their manager.
Yeah.
And they're all part-timers. They all have day jobs. And that's just, it was unforgivable. I don't want to go back over Darvel again. That's a disaster.
No,
but I'm just, you know, if the the statement is called out the players as well. So the statement is calling the senior players out and saying, you guys have gone on record with us now, and we're putting on record with the fans. Again, potentially dangerous move by the board, by Cormac, and putting that out there, because we know who the senior players are.
Yeah.
Stewart, obviously the captain, McCrory, Joe Lewis.
Would you put Ramadani in there as well?
No. I don't think so. Would you?
I was more because he's kind of been like that linchpin of the midfield. I probably wouldn't, given the fact he was only signed in the summer. But that's what I'm saying. Like, folk will assume Graham Shinney to be a senior player, given
Johnny Hayes,
the club. But yeah, Johnny Hayes, another good example as well. But other than that, I mean, when he says senior players, you could probably only name 4 or 5, and most of them aren't even starters. So, I mean, unless he's listing like Matty Kennedy in there as a senior player, but I wouldn't have him in my list of senior players personally.
No, it could be Miofsky potentially. Maybe he is, including the relatively high-profile signings that we've made and the ones that seem to have worked out relatively well so far. Although Ramadani was dreadful on Monday,
even Duke as well, who did escape a lot of criticism. But again, I suppose you'd be hard pressed to pick a very worst Don to go against what the ABZ guys usually do with their top Don. But just one of those nights, and
none of them came out with any credit. Maybe young Duncan. At least he tried. At least he seemed to try.
But we need a lot more than looking to try when we travel back to Edinburgh on Saturday. And as usual, when we preview games against Hibs, Michael Monan will be joining us on the podcast. Michael, welcome back to the podcast. Things aren't going great in the dugout at Aberdeen. The same could be said for Hibs as well, with Lee Johnson going into this game under pressure. He hasn't had the vote of confidence from the Hibs directors yet, though, has he?
Well, not very good, like yourselves. It's going to be an interesting one on Saturday, definitely. But I don't think I'm not looking forward to it. I don't think anyone's looking forward to it, to be honest.
No, well, certainly not from a footballing point of view. I don't think many are looking forward to it. Michael, when I spoke to you a couple of days ago about potentially coming on the podcast and having to delay it because of obviously the result on Monday night, there's been a couple of transfer rumours circulating around Hibs. Kevin Nisbet has been linked with a move down south to Millwall, and I think there was rumours around Chris Cadden's future at Hibs as well. What's going on with Hibs just now? Is there an exodus from the playing squad before the manager jumps ship?
I've absolutely no idea. Is my honest answer. I don't blame any of the players for wanting to leave, but I don't think that they are in a position to be using to bargain their way out either. They've been very poor over the season. We seem to have a reliance. We seem to always have a reliance on one player. Martin Boyle, obviously, was someone that we heavily relied on, and he gets injured. Then Kevin Nisbet comes back. Kevin Nisbet's been our best player since that happened. So we can't just keep losing our best players and hope for things to go well when things are already going badly.
Yeah, and Johnny, I know you listened to the Hibs Ramble recently as well, and I think you quoted a tweet from Hibs Central as well. The similarities between what is going on at Hibs just now and Aberdeen are uncanny, aren't they?
Yeah, it's scary how similar the trajectory of our two clubs, owned by Americans, or sorry, Dave Cormac's not an American, but you know what I mean. Yeah. American-based owners. Is Ron Gordon Canadian, actually, Michael?
No, he's Peruvian.
That threw me a curveball. Anyway, Okay, he's Peruvian. Similar ownership models. Have you got a director of football yet, or is it still his son who's doing?
No, we have. Well, it's meant. Apparently, it's Ben Kensel, but he's the most incompetent man of that position in history.
I'm sure
football just in history.
It seems to be. Do you know? I'll make a wider point now about Hibs and Aberdeen and Hearts and Dundee United. It seems to be in the last sort of 10 years when we probably need our big city clubs to be competing up the top end. Only one of us seems to be able to get our shit together. You know, if we're ever to have any shot of getting into the top two, one of us, right? We need Hibs to be strong, Aberdeen to be strong, and probably United to be strong to take points off them. We'll never do it. And it's amazing to me that we're a shambles. Hibs look to be a shambles. United are always on the precipice of being a shambles. And so we're basically at the same level as St Mirren and Ross County. And there's not a fag paper to put between us and them. And then there's Hearts. And then there's the top two.
But is that not always happened? Because obviously, like, for us, Hearts, Aberdeen, Dundee United, even like Malwell up until a couple of years ago, like, if you're playing well, it means that they're not, if that makes sense. It's very rare that everyone's playing well at the same time.
But why? I don't get it. I just don't understand why there has to be one. Like, it was us for a while under McInnes, which was great, but and then Hibs were a shambles, Hearts were a shambles, and now Hearts have come back and got their shit together. It just, why can't we all do it at the same time, and then we might have a shot at knocking those two off their perch? Just a
why can't we all live happily together? Is what you're trying to ask?
No, why can't we all have everything we want? No, I just want to. The one thing I feel is that we all need each other to be performing well. And I know we like taking the piss out of each other and all the rest of it. It's all good banter, but the wider point is Scottish football needs us to be better than we are and better than we have been.
Well, I mean, especially, again, when you look at what Motherwell did in Europe last season, a strong Aberdeen or Hibs, you'd like to think, I mean, I really don't feel I've got a leg to stand on after Monday night, but you'd like to think we would be able to beat a League of Ireland side. But yeah, I feel we've lost a lot of bragging rights after Monday. But Michael, I know you were sitting in the background listening to me and Jonny in that first 20 minutes and what we had to say ahead of the game, and what the atmosphere might be like from the away end, potential toxic atmosphere. What do you think that atmosphere will be like in the home end on Saturday? Will it be as equally toxic? I know you mentioned to me after the weekend the chance of protests are about 110%.
Yeah. Well, I'm quite annoyed because Jonny stole my line that I was going to come up with about the equal toxicity from both sides.
Yeah.
So I'm quite annoyed about that, but no. Yeah, I think protests are going to happen, especially if Nisbet leaves as well. Just, I think, regardless of the result, I think that the result will only make it worse. But yeah, it's not a happy camp at the moment. I don't know about you, but I think this is worse than being angry. I'm quite like disillusioned and apathetic a wee bit. I think that's worse.
I think disillusioned was a word I used after Monday night to when I was messaging somebody. Apathy kind of waned a little bit this morning, the fact that we hadn't released the statement. But Jonny, I think it's safe to say anger is well and truly back now that Dave Cormack's popped his head above the parapet.
Yeah, the anger was there yesterday and today, and now it's up to 110. The apathy, I'm sure, will come later on down the road once this wears off and we're fighting for, the relegation, the playoff spot or whatever, which, isn't inconceivable for us. What's, Michael, if Is Nisbet away to? Is it Millwall they're coming for him today? Is it?
Well, they made a bid yesterday for 1 million, and then Scott Burns decided to just guess that it was accepted, even though it wasn't. And then 2.3 million today, I believe, was accepted. So I think he'll be away. That's
probably doesn't play then, if that's the case, which is good for us.
Johnny, I don't even think he'll be in the country to play. So no.
Wow. And Porteous is away, is he?
I'm not sure, but I think there was something in the Evening News that I read earlier saying that would might have accepted a bid from Watford or something. I'm not entirely sure. I was quite distracted when I was reading it.
It just has shades of United when they sold Robertson, Mackay Steven, and Stuart Armstrong to Celtic. You know, it just has echoes of that. That's not good for Hibs.
It's absolutely ridiculous, and they was trying to sell match-worn shirts for £180 from a derby that we got beat 3-0 in. It's absolutely unbelievable. And meet the players event, meet the midfielders for £50. Kyle McGuinness, who probably won't be fit enough to go to the event. Ewan Henderson, who could be possibly the worst player in the league. And to be fair, Josh Campbell and John Rule, I wouldn't slag them, to be honest. I think they've actually been quite good for us.
I mean, the last time you came on here, you openly slagged Josh Campbell, who then went on to play like prime Javi and rip us apart at Easter Road. So now that you've said that about Ewan Henderson, I think I'm going to lump on him to score at the weekend. But I mean, Johnny, could you imagine if on the back of, well, you could argue Monday, but the likes of the 3-2 game against Rangers, our PR team decide to, well, I mean, I don't really know what our PR team does a lot of the time, but if they came out and said, pay £50 to meet your midfielders or auction off the match-worn shirts. I mean, I know it's not to the same extent with it not being a derby, but you could certainly imagine some of the reaction on social media.
Yeah, I can. I'd be contributing to that reaction. It's just tone deaf. It's just, what do these people, I mean,
read the room.
I feel your pain, Michael. I feel your pain, but what do they think? What are they thinking of in the commercial department when they think, this is a good time to put this tweet out? I just don't get it. I honestly don't get it. But it's obviously good for us. But, you know, you could be without Nisbet, Porteous, potentially. We'll still fuck it up. Yeah,
I mean, Michael, who comes in place of Nisbet if he's not there? And who do you fill the gap with centre-back that Ryan Porteous doesn't play?
Well, the thing is, we sold Melkerson on loan to Sparta Rotterdam.
What a bit of business that could be for you.
Genius move. So the only striker that we have as in a centre forward is Harry McCurdy.
Oh, right.
So, because Kukarevich is injured. Well, this is another thing. Somebody came. So I think it was Johnson came out and said that he wasn't out for too long, and then Kukarevich put a post up on his Instagram with his legs like in a cast. I don't know what it's for a leg, like one of those
like the moon boot
things for his leg. A boot, not kind of like a boot for his leg, and I was like, what's going on here? And then Will Fish probably be brought in centre half. Absolute terrible. So yeah.
What about the guy that was like in the Hearts lineup in the Hearts full-time celebrations? Is he going to be near the match day squad?
Well, he's on loan at Ross County, so
okay.
But just again, indicative of the culture at the club, because that is just absolute.
Did you see that, Glen, today? Was one of the posts, I think it was the Sun's article saying Goodwin's going to get hooked today, and David Bates had it liked on.
David Bates had liked
that was brilliant.
Sums up where we are with Scottish football with incidents like that. But Michael, how do you sense from a Hibs point of view this game? Is this the ideal time to be playing Aberdeen when we're down in the doldrums, or are you more focused on your own problems and just think, surely things
definitely. Well, definitely the second bit, because we are terrible. And even I'll be honest, I don't actually think we played that bad on Sunday, but it's been a story of us all season. We can't score and we can't defend, so never going to end up well. So no, yeah.
Don't worry, because we're coming to Easter Road on Saturday. If you can't score, our defenders will show you the way.
It could be the first game in history that nobody even scores in the warm-up, because that is a shite. Nah, I mean, it's not going to be a good football game. It might be quite interesting and entertaining in terms of what fans contribute to it. But in terms of actual quality in the pitch, I don't think there's going to be much available.
Yeah, and as I said, BBC Alba are showing the game back in full, and I'm sure it's 6 o'clock they do their live streams. They might have to put it behind a parental guidance warning. And that's not just for what happens off the pitch. It could be for what happens on the pitch as well. But, Jonny, given, Hibs' well-documented poor run of form, our poor run of away form, it's difficult to even be confident for this weekend. It's difficult to even know what to expect from this Aberdeen side, isn't it?
Well, it's away from home, so I expect us to get beat. I know what you're saying, and I know Hibs are every bit as much of a shambles as we are. We can't defend. Clean sheets away from home just don't happen. Scoring hasn't been much of an issue, but after what I've seen lately, I struggle to see how we can get a win. Even, and Hibs are only, sixth, just a couple of points behind us.
See, if we win, we're a point off Europe, which I thought was absolutely unbelievable, considering how shite we are.
Yeah, and we're fifth, which is wild to the thing is that we're in such free fall that I'm looking for us just to survive in the top league this year, especially the way things have gone the last sort of couple of hours with that statement. January window's about to close. I can't see any players coming in now. Who would take the chance coming to Aberdeen now? As you were saying, Glenn, at the start about whether the manager's going to be here much longer. Why would you come and put yourself through that? I'm worried about. I know people have said that Monday was the end of our season, and that's us out of the cup, and on user out of the cup as well, Michael. Although you're right, I watched your game on Sunday and I thought you played all right. It was typical Hibs, really. Lots of nice football, a couple of chances, and then Hearts got the field up the park and score. But I don't think it's the end of our season at all, because we have to make sure of European football, however we manage it. And at the moment, I can't see it. I can't envisage a situation where that team under that manager has the balls to drag out a run of results that are going to be needed to get us to fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was actually just looking at the table there whilst you two are speaking, and a win for Hibs this weekend puts them above us. And looking at the rest of the league table, St Mirren entertain Motherwell at home. Of course, Motherwell, the only team to beat St Mirren at home this season. But wins for St Mirren and Hibs would see us drop into the bottom six this weekend, Jonny. Looking back at that statement from Dave Cormack, when he speaks about, we needing to see immediate reaction, surely defeat and dropping into the bottom six, I mean, if defeat to Darvel isn't good enough to get rid of your manager, I don't know what is. But dropping into the bottom six when we were 4 points clear in third place with a game in hand at the end of November, and we're going into January potentially in the bottom six, is just quite a sorry state of affairs, to put it really brutally.
Yeah, but I think the league table, the positions below Hearts anyway, be like the wacky races between now and the end of the season. We'll pull ahead. Hibs might pull ahead for a bit. St Mirren, I don't think anybody's going to pull clear because it's consistency that we don't have. So we might win one game and then lose the next three, which has been the pattern lately. I just don't see if someone else like St Mirren or Livy or Hibs gets it sorted and puts together a run of results, we're done for. You know, in terms of finishing fourth is concerned. So that's a worry. Surely, I don't know why we have to wait until it's too late, right? Why do we have to wait until we've already fucked it? You know, Europe's gone. All that potential European money is gone, and we have to get rid of the manager then. I don't understand the mentality. Like I said, I would have emptied him after Tannadice. That might have given us half a chance. You know, it's too late. It's too late now. It's going to be too late if he gets rid of him on Sunday, which he won't. There's no way a defeat against Hibs at Easter Road is a sackable offence if Darvel isn't. No way.
Yeah, and this is my biggest concern is that, well, obviously we're not live on this episode, but Mark Robertson, who normally tunes into our lives, did that poll on Twitter and listed 4 games. It was when was your turning point against Jim Goodwin, and I was going to tag you in it because Tannadice wasn't listed, and I knew that would have been straight off the bat. But there was, as we discussed kind of earlier in the show, there was plenty of games that Mark could have included. He just unfortunately could only fit 4 into his poll, and that's just kind of the sorry state where we are right now. Is that what you're saying about there's too many examples right now, and we're going back to the venue, which was almost a catalyst for some of the downturn in. Obviously, the Jim Goodwin had the opportunity to use Ryan Porteous cheating as an excuse. For those listening, I did put the word cheating in inverted commas before any Hibs fans come at me. I know Michael biting his tongue right now. But again, we threw our game plan away by making the changes. You know, questions right there flagged about Jim Goodwin's man management, etc., etc. It just feels that we're just going to see a carbon copy again. And I mean, Michael, I don't know. You're obviously listening to what we've got to say here. Can you feel that Hibs could exploit the way that Aberdeen fans are feeling just now, or is confidence among Hibs fans just so low that you'll just take anything this weekend?
I don't think there's too much difference between how you're feeling and us. Well, obviously, like, we don't get beat for junior teams, obviously, but with the exception of that,
you play ineligible players in the cup instead.
Exactly. So we both have our faults. No, but I'm just going to go off on a wee tangent, but I can't believe that he's not been sacked, to be honest. I think it's absolutely unbelievable. And just, for him, do you know what I mean? Like, on a human level, like, he's on a road to nowhere. He can't. There's nothing he can do that's going to make people think, oh, we'll keep him, because he's not going to be able to do it for a long enough time for it to happen. So it's a waste of everyone's time. Anyway, so yeah, what was going? No, I don't. With regards to Saturday, because we have our own problems, and we could be playing anyone. So I don't think we're going to be linking on. We're going to be feeding off your problems. I think we're just going to be happy to win a game of football.
But given the fact that, you know, it's a home game for Hibs and we're coming to Easter Road, as I said, with a poor away record and all the background noise, is this an opportunity for Lee Johnson to try and kind of exploit a wounded animal as such? You know, use that home advantage, get the crowd on side. As you said, you know, you guys played well on Sunday, just didn't get the result. If you play like you did at spells in that first half, I mean, you're 100% going to be able to exploit our back line. So can you take, obviously the result aside, can you take positives from the weekend going into this weekend?
Yeah. In terms of the way we, in terms of chances that we created and things like that. Yeah, but the problem is that we've done it in one game and then go into the next game and it's like we've never played a game of football before. That's the problem. So I won't be thinking, and it's like you say, Aberdeen are a wounded animal. Wounded animals are very dangerous. They are. So just
But
because
so are you. You just got beaten off Hearts.
that's true, but every time, but I've been on this podcast maybe twice after getting beat from Hearts, saying that we need a reaction, and that being the two of the most pitiful displays that I can recall. So I wouldn't. That's not really always the sort of thing that you would need or expect as a way of bouncing back or whatever. But I think we are capable of beating you, but I also think that we are very much capable of getting beat. So I suppose
that's how we would feel as well, Johnny. Yeah. We should be capable of beating Hibs if we apply ourselves properly. It'd be a fine chance this season if we could do that away from home in general. But I mean, looking ahead to this game, there's got to be changes from that starting lineup that faced Darvel. I don't see Patrick Mislovic playing. If Graham Shinnie is not in the starting lineup, there is 100% been some sort of bust up. It will just fuel those rumours. I'm going to run with it. It's inexcusable if he doesn't play. I think you've got to go back to having two up top as well. But, yeah. I mean, really, from what we've got on the bench, other than Shinnie, Majowski and Hayes, we can't really change too much else, can we?
No, but that'll be a good start, right? So I'd be tempted to play. I mean, if it's me playing Championship Manager here, I would have Bizowen replacing Duncan on the right, and Hayes playing on the left where he's supposed to play. And who else have we got? I mean, Duke and Majowski up top. I don't know. I don't know if that's the system though, is it? So McCrory's going to play right back. I mean, what does the whole right back situation say about what Cormac what Goodwin thinks of Jaden Richardson? That he doesn't get a start against a non-league team. He doesn't trust them to start right back against a non-league team. It's disgraceful. Shinnie has to come back in unless he's injured, unless tomorrow we hear from Goodwin in his press conference that he's picked up a knock or whatever. That he might say that to cover his tracks. You start the conspiracy theories now. But if Shinnie's not playing, I'd be absolutely astonished. I think it might be a case of he was rested on Monday because he looked knackered against Hearts, and he hasn't played all that much football lately.
See, on that point there, sorry to interrupt you, it kind of goes against the making changes. We were 4-0 down against Hearts at half-time, much to Michael's disbelief as well. Go and rest the players then, if they needed rested. The game was gone. Playing some of those players continuously for the full 90 was, again, poor man management.
Yeah, I mean, his in-game management is questionable. We know that. It's been flagged up heaps of times. Hibs at Easter Road the last time was the most glaring example of his lack of in-game management or his ability to affect a game once it's started to go against us, you know, and to change that flow. He just hasn't shown he's capable of doing it. So I mean, we have to get off to a good start. So we have to start strong. It has to put our best team on the pitch. And that
started
includes
off strong the last time.
Yeah, we did, and then
we still have to do 2 minutes.
Yeah, but we didn't do anything after we scored. I mean, I remember watching that game thinking, well, that's a great start. We got off to a good start. And then we just let Hibs come back at us. It's just bizarre. It's just, we do that often. When we get ahead, we've done that for years, even under McInnes. You get ahead and you sit on a 1-0 lead, except this team can't defend.
Yeah.
You
know? I suppose, Michael, you know, this really is, to use a good football cliche, first goal is important. In this game in particular, feels like whoever scores first, I mean, hopefully someone scores in this game for everybody's sake. The first goal has a huge bearing on the outcome of this match, and also what it will be like for fans of either side who get the goal.
Yeah, no, I would agree. It's going to be very tense, I think, because as I've mentioned that I feel apathetic, and there's quite a lot of that going around as well with Hibs fans. I feel like Hibs fans have had enough, but it's not like had enough in terms of necessarily like anger. It's like I can't be arsed with this anymore. Do you know if that makes sense? So I think that's probably shared with Aberdeen supporters as well. So it's quite weird that we're both going into a game with the same thing. If that makes, if you know,
no, I think it'll be anger. I think there'll be anger. Yeah, the away end will be angry on Saturday.
The point that Michael makes there about tension, I'll get both of your opinions on this. Do you think then this weekend will almost kind of have that cup game feel to it then, given the kind of pressures that are coming from both sets of fans, the tension, as Michael says? Jonny, I'll start with you since I rudely cut you off there.
Yes, I think there might be an old-fashioned cup tie. I'm expecting, after that statement, the players have to come out and start fast. They have to do what they didn't do on Monday and fly into some tackles and show they care, right? Because this is like their chance to put it right and show they care about the manager and all that stuff that I don't believe for a minute, but it's been put down in a statement tonight. So I'm expecting us to start fast. I'm not sure what to expect from Hibs after speaking to Michael tonight. I don't know if they're just going to come out and go, fuck it, or if they're going to give it back to us. I don't know what to expect. I would hope that it might be a bit of an entertaining game because of that. But if there's tension there, it could be tight. It could be 0-0. You know, it could just be one of those games where we just cancel each other out.
And it could be one of those games where, particularly for managers, would be quite happy with that, just to get it sort of out of the way.
Yeah. Funny, someone actually tweeted the podcast account just now saying that if Goodwin does survive this weekend, it would potentially allow St Mirren to finish him off at Pittodrie the following midweek.
Full circle.
Full circle. And what team would need any more motivation than that to see off their former manager? But Michael, do you think the game could potentially have that cup feel to it?
Yep. When did we last play each other in the cup? Was it the semi-final? 2017. Just to not off.
I want to say when we beat you on penalties at Easter Road.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that'll be right. No, I remember that. I remember that you mentioned it.
Yeah. Well, Michael, I don't know if you've given me confidence, fear, or just more dread ahead of the game, but thank you, as always, for joining Red Tinted Glasses to give your thoughts on Hibs as the Dons look to right many a wrong. Maybe get someone to write a proper statement soon as well for the club after tonight. But Jonny as well, thank you very much for ably stepping into Callum's shoes once again. Might need to be calling you on Saturday at 5:45 if things go horribly, because I've got the banners, I've got the thumbnails all ready for Jim Goodwin to be sacked. I was expecting to be using them tonight, but they'll hold storage until the weekend.
It won't be long, I think, but I don't think it'll be this week.
Well, better be sooner rather than later. But thank you both very much for joining me on Red Tinted Glasses. If the manager's position does become untenable, I will be back reacting live to that decision, maybe with Jonny, maybe with Callum, depending how long we have to wait. If he survives the weekend, we will be back with a video reviewing the game from the weekend and looking ahead to the midweek encounter with St Mirren. Remember to like and comment with your thoughts down below. Hit that subscribe button wherever you're tuning in. And thanks very much. Until next time.